Our days are already full of little moments that matter. We just have to make some space to actually notice them. I remember looking on our days and just thinking, wow, these days are already so full. So even though I wanted to add little things that would be beneficial to us, it just felt like there was no space left and that we just didn't have the time to do these things. What helped me was to actually change my perspective on our days. So rather than just focusing on how little time we have, I'm trying to just notice those little opportunities that show up in everyday life and to actually use them. Use them and turn them into something memorable. So watching out for opportunities during the day and thinking about how to make them more intentional. I know that sounds very vague, but let me explain. So the first thing that comes into my mind is to actually anchor the things that we want to include around activities that already happen in our day. So what does that mean practically? There is certain things that we do every single day. One very obvious one is meal times. So meals just happen every single day. Now I remember noticing that meals would just take really long as well. So there's plenty of space during those meal times. I've got very slow eaters. So rather than getting annoyed with my slow eaters, I actually saw this as an opportunity. As an opportunity to just add little things onto those table or picnic moments that we have. So one thing that we've always been doing, and it just takes a few seconds, is saying grace before meals. But then I also added other things. So during breakfast or sometimes after breakfast, sometimes my slow eaters aren't as slow as I would anticipate. But regardless of that, usually I just get like the Bible out. We've got a Bible with beautiful illustrations that just has like little quotes and explanations on the side. But I do actually show them the illustration and then read out of the Polish Bible because we're a bilingual home. So yeah, I'll have the two side by side, show them images and read some parts from the Bible together. Sometimes it's just a little paragraph, sometimes they want to hear more, so I just read a bit more. And as I said, sometimes it's while they're still eating, so their hands are busy and everything. Sometimes I have to interrupt to put the baby on the potty or something like that. And sometimes they finished eating quicker than me, so they just stick around and wait for the Bible reading. During lunchtime, or again after lunchtime in some cases, we usually do some scripture memory. So that's literally just me reading out scripture verses. It was kind of meant to be for myself, but yeah. It's amazing how much quicker children can sometimes memorize things than us adults. So this just became something that we do together. We also usually do a little story time after that. And yeah, again, these things, they don't have to happen every single day. Like if there's no time for it because we're in a rush or something, that is fine. We either cut it short or we just skip it, or if we're out of the house for it, that's all fine. Like this is meant to serve us and not stress us out. And yeah. And our snack time, that actually has a special name here. It happens after nap/quiet time, and that usually involves reading some poetry that even the baby gets super excited about. And then we've got dinner time, which I just held open for family conversation because Daddy is home, so we just get to eat together as a whole family. But this doesn't mean that it only has to happen with meal times. So another thing that has to happen at some point of the week is laundry. I usually like to take the opportunity, and while I'm hanging up the laundry, I just notice little things with my children, like just point out a little bird that came to say hi, look at some flowers together, or just make a comment about the sky. As you can see, it's not so much about having big chunks of time to do something special with our children, but it's also just using the little moments that we have in our everyday lives to just make them special and that way also memorable to them. So the next thing is to choose connection over efficiency. And this basically just means to choose people over tasks. So how often does it happen that we're just busy doing something? Let's go back to the laundry example. And then our child, they found like the most beautiful caterpillar or something, and they want to show us. And they're like, wow, mommy, look, I found something really cool. And we're just like, well, tell me what it is. Just tell me. And they're like, no, come, I want to show you. So these are the moments that can be just so beautiful because our children want to share a certain experience with us. So in that moment, if we actually pause and enter into their world, those little tiny moments, they can actually become so beautiful, because it's a different kind of feeling to share something like that together, to follow the beautiful butterfly around the backyard, rather than just being told, well, I saw a butterfly, you know. It's just, yeah, it's just a much deeper experience, and also helps us to bond better with them and to just pull our eyes and our hearts towards what really matters, to acknowledge the beauty around us and to live in relationship with the world that God has given to us. So yeah, another thing that happens really often is just being asked questions. So many questions. Like if you have talkative children, you know what I'm talking about. No matter what you're doing, you're trying to focus on baking a cake, and there it goes, another question. And sometimes when I already hear the start of it, I tend to just get really annoyed because I'm trying to focus right now. But then when I actually get myself to listen and to give them the attention that they need in that moment, it really often turns into something really beautiful. It was only yesterday that my son was asking me something really random. And at first I wanted to just do the regular, but I actually decided to just listen, respond, show interest. And it was amazing because that conversation ended up being really deep. It was a conversation about God, and we were just like discussing the truths of life. And I feel like this moment has taught him, and myself as well, so much more than we could have learned by just sitting down at a set time where we plan in advance that, okay, today we're going to learn this and this about God and the world. So it's really often those little moments that on the first sight look like interruptions. But if we actually change our perspective and see them as little opportunities, so much beauty can come out of them. Which again shows we don't need big experiences and big activities, but we just really need to make time for those little everyday moments that come up, to notice them and also to allow them to become something joyful. So the next thing that comes to my mind would be to just make sure that we have a calm environment. And as I already said in a previous video, having like a loose rhythm helps a lot with that. And also having little moments of reset throughout the day. And with that, I don't just mean physical resets, as in like after playing, picking up the room, after cooking, making sure the kitchen is nice and clean, which helps us to stay calm because our environment is nice and tidy and organized. But what's even more important is emotional resets throughout the day. So when we notice that we are getting wound up by something, to just calm down, take a moment, breathe, step outside with our children, being silly with them, all these little things. So we don't want a perfect home, we want a resettable home. We also don't want a perfect mood, but we want to have a resettable heart and being able to just react cheerfully to our children and just take with ease whatever life throws at us. The last thing I wanted to add might sound a little bit contradictory when we want to fill our home with intentional things, but to be able to do so, we also have to limit what fills our days. So we don't create space by just adding good things, but we also have to leave spaces empty for those beautiful things. So what that means is to just not overschedule our lives, to not spend every single day out of the home, but to really protect those simple everyday moments that we get in the home. This way, we might be doing fewer things, but those few things we are actually doing more intentionally. So our day doesn't have to become special by adding more activities to it or anything like that, but we just have to learn to see what we already have in a different way and to notice the little things as something beautiful. But yeah, as I said, all these things, I'm still figuring them out myself. I'm not doing all of them perfectly, but I'm just trying to think and talk about them a lot so they stay present in my mind and that I just remember to actually do them.